It's the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Welcome to what we're going to call an exclusive episode on today. Anyone who is involved with college baseball, in particular HBCU college baseball, will not be unfamiliar with this name I'm about to echo out. We are honored to have him on the show. He's not a stranger to the show. We've been hitting and missing for a few years at least now, but we're going to present to some and introduce to others none other than Michael COKER of Black College Nines. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. Mike Prince, how are you doing?
Man, I dare not complain, man. Another day that wasn't promised to me, so I'm going to try to take advantage to the best of my ability.
Well, that's the both of us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, look, we got a lot to try to cover, and you're going to be the captain of this ship, sir. And however you feel free, then I'll mosey right along with you. But I first want to say congratulations on another successful run with your College World Series, Black College World Series. If you could, give us a recap and a summary on that, how things got off the ground, and then we'll let the rest take care of itself.
Well, Mike, as you very well know, Black College World Series, I'm the founder, and it took a 10-year period to get it together, and we finally got it in 2021, and it's been growing ever since. Had a good 2022 campaign where Edward Waters, well, in 2021, Bluefield State was your first Black College World Series national champion, and then Edward Waters last year, and then this year was Florida Memorial. And again, the event is held in Montgomery, Alabama. We're trying to ink a 5-10-year deal with the city to continue to host it there. We have the community, the mayor's office, the city council, mainly the Biscuits, the Montgomery Biscuits. And it's an event that is growing, and it's an event that's going to be year-round. We were no longer going to have a mystical champion. Everything's going to be settled on the field.
Okay, and like you said, it took some patience and temperance, a lot of no's, until you finally got that yes to see this thing come to life. And when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, it's like watching a child grow up, isn't it?
It sure is, because nothing's easy. You have to nourish it. There's a lot of time involved. There's a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, but you have a lot of hope. You have to have faith, and you have to push on.
Absolutely. And by pushing on, you get a chance to see. You've been fortunate enough, and we know it's no mystery that although baseball is a very dynamic sport, if you ask either one of us, it's not one of those sports that are going to be totally funded. And it's a sport, for the most part, it's not even understood. And unfortunately, Mike, it's not even understood by those who play the game of the dynamics that it takes to really execute on and off a baseball diamond.
Well, baseball is a funny sport, and it starts at a very young age, like all sports do. But baseball is a thinking man's sport that you react to it. You know, you have 9 players on the field, and you have one batter trying to find a way to get on base to score. And you have to think, react, but you have to be fundamentally sound. You got to know what to do when the ball is hit to you. You have to react. You have a split second to do it and no time to do it. And I love the sport because there's so many things involved and so many things that you need to do to be fundamentally sound. That not just hitting the ball, but catching, fielding, pitching, running. Baseball is a unique sport within its own right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, it's a unique process for teams that qualify for your World Series, and it's somewhat of a peculiar angle dealing with your D1 schools, because they're most of the times in their tournaments, and if they happen happen to win the tournament, they're off to the regionals. And we know that you just recently declared FAMU as the national black champion for the D1 level. Do you base that predicated on the tournaments that they play, and how do you go about selecting your teams to represent in the World Series?
Everything comes through Black College Nine's top 10 poll, whether it's for the large school or the small school. Now, for the small school, our top 10 poll determined our selection committee. We have a really, really good selection committee from Black College Championships, who is the promoter of the Black College World Series. The selection committee is run by a chair named Jarrell Calhoun, who watches the teams during the season, even in our poll, because our national top 10 poll is based upon getting ranked, winning you're in, your strength of schedule, and winning. And once you're in that top 10 poll, that's the way you get selected for the Black College World Series. And it's the same thing for the large school, the Division I HBCU large schools. To win the national title, you have to be ranked. And that ranking comes with strength of schedule, winning your ball games. What do you do against common opponents? What do you do against big D1 programs that have that high RPI rating percentage index, that heavy strength of schedule? Basically, win and you're in.
Mike, I know this takes a whole lot of training, prepping. What's the secret sauce to a successful event that you're pulling off with this Black World Series?
To have a successful 4 days, it takes a good full year of everyday planning. What I mean by that is your logistics, meetings, getting information together, gathering information, planning and implementing a plan takes a good full year, so that those 4 days are the most successful 4 days for the tournament. Okay, and I can imagine it's a lot of stress and a bunch of coffee and no-dos at that time period too, huh? What's not ever mentioned are the late nights, the 2-3 o'clock in the morning, the paperwork, the request, insurance, liability. These are the things that are taken care of behind the scenes, so that once the players step on the field, you got the games. Okay, now it's ironic that you talk about the RPI. That has been the Achilles heel for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Unfortunately, Alabama State wins 41 regular season games, or just 41 games period in a season, and they're eliminated from the tournament play because they didn't win the SWAC tournament. However, because of some of the counterparts' strength of schedule, or should we say lack of strength of schedule, it creates a ding for them, because when you look at the body of work that Alabama State put in, they played all the D1 schools and they played all that. And you have other baseball purists saying that maybe the D1 HBCUs should no longer compete with the D2, D3, what are not many, no D3 NIA, baseball situations, or the NIA programs. Do you agree with that? I do, and it's killing the Southwest Conference, the SWAC, because you only have a handful of schools that are playing D1 schedules, and the others are beating up on NAIAs and D2s, and it's bringing the conference down. Now, Alabama State should have been ranked. Yes. They should have gotten a regional, right? Whether they won or not. But when your conference members are scheduling NAIAs and beating up on NAIAs, it's lowering the RPIs. 41 wins will normally get you in the tournament.
No doubt. And in most cases, get you hosted a tournament, but we're not asking for a hosting opportunity, just an opportunity to expand, the product, if you would.
Well, I'm very supportive of the RPI.
Okay.
Because you're putting the best against the best. And you have Alabama State, you have Bethune-Cookman, and you have Florida A&M are the only three schools in the SWAC that do not schedule NAIAs. They have a full D1 schedule.
Right.
And those programs that are scheduling NAIAs, they're hurting, especially a stout team like Alabama State. And that's one of the reasons why their RPIs are down. When your conference RPIs are way low, you're not going to get a bid. Then it falls on what do you do in the conference tournament.
Yes.
Win your conference tournament, and then you get in. And if you notice the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, they're sending 5 or 6 teams because their RPIs are high.
Right.
HBCUs have to do a better job of scheduling D1 programs and start beating those programs.
Well, and I think it's a combination of things, and I'm totally in support of playing a D1 schedule. I even did a couple of shows where I say we've got a D1 status, but we're operating in a D3 mentality, and that's killing everything that says D1 period. And when I say that, Mike, I'm not talking about necessarily on how much money you're spending, because I'll use the state of Texas in which I reside in. There are enough quality D1 programs that you can play a very reputable D1 schedule that would improve your RPI ranking. Now, you might have to have some growing pains and bumps and bruises of adjusting the type of player that you bring to the table, but you have that opportunity. And I keep sticking with Texas because that's where I am. There are 1,700 public baseball programs in the state of Texas from 1A to 6A. That's a lot of kids to choose from. And one thing that makes baseball so beautiful, you could be 6'6", or you could be 5'6". Your size really will help you the smaller you are, because you got a tighter strike zone to try to hit. But you'll give up some power per se, but baseball is going to be about how fundamentally you are on the defensive side and how your pitchers respond. Not how hard they throw, but how they pitch. And I find it mystical that you have guys on pitching staffs that play a 50-game schedule and don't even get 10 innings on the mound. To me, that's a waste of opportunity.
Well, a lot of that is you have grinders. You have guys that can log a lot of innings. Then when you're recruiting those guys you just mentioned, they get on the campus, and next thing you know, there's heavy competition. Mm-hmm. So what it falls down to is the best man wins. And you take the example is FAMU has a kid in Maduro who went out and threw 40 innings. He had the most innings pitched this year for any D1 program. That's a lot of innings. Mm-hmm. And all of that occurred in relief. But the thing is, he's got arm. He has an arm. He's got arm strength. He can go out there and last long. And a lot of these kids, coming out of high school, they were really good baseball players that got them on the team. But then, they didn't adjust to the collegiate game. So in other words, they're good enough to play the game, but you're not good enough to be in the game at any and every giving time, and that happens. That's a part of the game.
Right. But those are what I call role players, and in particular with pitching, because we know pitching is the silver bullet. It is the antidote to any and everything. And once again, I would love to have 15 arms that give me 90 plus every time they toss the peel, but I know that's not my reality. And when we compare apples to apples, when we're talking about HBCU baseball in particular, for whatever reason, whatever narrative they have in their mindsets, most kids that are throwing at 90 plus feel like that maybe the manner of play is not at the level that they think they're on, right? So they would rather go and sit in a reserve position where they can get hours and build stamina, strength, and more visibility to perhaps get a chance at the next level. So what I'm saying is, and I've believed in this philosophy, I've seen a couple of teams in particular all going toward the end of the season attempt this. Why not have a 4-for-1? And by that I'm saying, Mike, get 4 pitchers to complete your game. Just have them a 4-headed monster. They are your pitching staff for that deal. I believe in pitch counts because of what we're playing up against. I don't want my guys going 80, 100 pitches per game. Get them a 60 pitch count or one time through the rotation. And if you're having a good day, by the time you get to see that person, that next batter, it might be inning 3 or 2.5 or 2 2/3 or whatever. But you've gone through enough and you come in with a new look, a new approach, and it might be a shade slower or a shade faster. But good pitching is about keeping the batter's timing off, not trying to blow it past them.
Well, and I agree with you. But what people have to understand is, back when we had high pitch counts, back when guys were throwing 120, 125, 130 innings, they only had two pitches.
Right. Fastball and a curveball.
And that was it. Mm-hmm. And it didn't take a lot of stress on the arm, didn't take a lot of stress on the shoulders. And now, the things that pitchers can do with a baseball. Some pitchers can throw 95, 98, and as the ball is coming towards the plate, you can actually see the label. You can read the label as it's flying by you. And then pitchers use every square inch of the strike zone, and they have their out pitch. So with that being said, you have to have, and I agree with you on the pitch count, because nowadays a pitcher cannot go out there and throw that many innings without having to ice his arm down to do things to get the arm back in shape. Back then, pitchers had rubber arms. They still have rubber arms, but you're seeing more pitchers now having Tommy John surgery, torn rotator cuffs. And that is contributed to, like I said earlier, back in the days, there were just 2 pitches. Nowadays, a pitcher has 6, 7 pitches in his repertoire. And that's changed the dynamics of pitching.
Yes, sir. Well, I tell you another pitch that I think that every pitcher should have in their arsenal, a changeup, because the changeup makes your fastball look that much faster. And if you got a good hook, man, you could really be a threat. And guess what? Trevor Hoffman proved you don't have to be throwing 90 plus to rack up the saves and the wins.
I agree with you. But the thing is, there's one of my favorite pitchers, and I really like the guy, is Kyle Hendricks.
Okay.
Kyle Hendricks does not, he has the ability to throw 90, but he doesn't. Mm-hmm. That's his choice. But he uses every square inch of the strike zone, and he mixes his pitches up well. Mm-hmm. And that's something you don't see nowadays, because everything is about a power arm. I mean, you got high school kids coming out throwing 98, 99. I witnessed the regionals in Gainesville this past weekend, where a freshman starter, his first pitch was 99. When he got the first batter out, it was 98. then, with that being said, I'm so used to your pitchers finding ways to get out. I got those 95. His next pitch may be 78, but he's got that strike.
And that's why I was referring to that changeup, because even if you're not in the 90s, with a good changeup in the arm motion that looks like your fastball will make your fastball appear to be 98, and it might be 84. But it's what you mentioned and referred to earlier. It's a thinking man's game, and if you think that you're going to blow it by everybody and strike everybody out, you're in for a long day on the hill, and that's for sure. So you've seen a lot of baseball over your time, Mike, and you've seen the haves and the have-nots, and what doesn't change is the fundamentals that makes baseball on any level enjoyable, and that's good defense, a good baseball IQ, and for me, hustle on and off the field all game long. Are you seeing that being a part of the distant past now?
No, not really. You're seeing teams run off because it's, a coach is not going to allow you to walk off. A coach is not going to allow you to loaf because he's got replaceable parts. If the kid doesn't want to listen, there's always somebody waiting in the wings.
Right.
And, teams nowadays, they have their junior varsity squad. So you got your guys that just aren't good enough, but are good enough, and waiting to get in. But the one thing that I've always liked, and my dad always said that good pitching will beat good hitting any day.
Yes, sir.
And that still applies to today.
Yes, sir. And those are the fundamentals that will make this game forever the neutralizer. And once again, I'm going to put that emphasis. I'm not really concerned about how much velocity you have. You can throw 98, 99, but if you don't have control and can't throw a strike when you need one, then that's an accident waiting to happen as far as I'm concerned. So we got to try to find a way. And you're a baseball guy. What is the answer for HBCUs having some success in the regional play on the D1 level? It's good to get there because we got the automatic bid, but at least get a sneak peek of a super regional. What do you think it's going to take for us to get over that hump?
We need to find arms. HBCU, we lack stacking a team that throws 94, 95 plus. For every one HBCU pitcher that throws 95, the bigger programs, you'll find a couple hundred. So we need arms, and that's the bottom line. Hitting takes care of itself. Pitching, you have to know what you're doing with pitching. You have to have those arms. You have to have the guy. And I was talking to one of our announcers from the Black College World Series, and I said this to him. I said, "Well, HBCUs, we really like pitching." And the kid said to me, he said, "That's not necessarily true anymore." He says, "Because kids are starting to want to come to HBCUs." And I said, "Well, that's true. They do." He said, "So it's now a process, and it's going to be a situation as to where HBCUs will be getting those arms. And until that happens, and I will repeat that, until that happens, I think that's where we lie. Well, until that happens, that's where I also think that, and you look at Alabama State. Alabama State gets good arms every year. But does Alabama State get the guys that are throwing 97, 98? Not all the time.
Right, and that was going to be my antidote because, okay, until that day does come, I still have to go out there and compete, right? So once again, it's going back to getting guys who pitch and not throw, because I think that's a real big fundamental difference. If I'm a pitcher, then I know I don't have the gas y'all, so I'm gonna have to outthink you, I'm gonna have to out-time you, out-craft you, whatever it's going to take for me to get that edge to do that. So do we keep wishing upon a star, waiting on these arms to show up? How do we make that adjustment until that change does come?
Keep recruiting. Keep hoping that one of these days that it happens. But mainly, we have to get the administrators to open up. That's the problem right there. The problem is HBCUs don't have the backing of the administrators to properly fund the program, budget enough revenue aside so that the coaches can get out there and do some heavy recruiting. And then the coaches have to really build their program. HBCUs are limited. You take LSU. LSU has a $4 million budget. The SWAC average is $250,000. Michigan has an $8 million budget. That's because those programs, they get out there and they fundraise, and the schools don't necessarily take anything away from them. Like at HBCUs, they're constantly taking the budgets of baseball programs and using them when they overextend themselves for football, basketball, and band. So if HBCUs need better support from their administrators, and then the sport will grow.
Okay. So do we boycott, picket, send in emails, letters? How do we get their attention on that?
Well, what's helping is the Black College World Series. Now you're getting it's drawing interest. It's getting the black kids back into the sport.
Okay.
With the kids now wanting to play baseball, because baseball was a black man's sport at one point.
No doubt.
And then the glamour sport came and we abandoned it. So with that being said, now that baseball has drawn interest, you have more black kids playing. You've got more kids looking at HBCUs, and the administration is starting to open up about it. It's a slow process, but I believe it can happen.
Yes, sir. Well, that's why we keep doing shows like this and what you're doing with Black College Nines, right? Well, we just going to keep pumping the message, and sooner or later it's going to fall on the right ears with the right backing to make this thing happen. And with that being said, as I say, our call speeds on its way, and we'll continue to do what we can while we can. We're speaking right now with Michael Coker of Black College Nines. He is the founder, the brainstorm of the Black College World Series in Montgomery, Alabama, home of the Biscuits. It's a nice facility there too, and they appreciate baseball in that part of the country. When you have gone through your polls to select your teams, if you're at liberty, what's the process? Is there much out of pocket for the teams to get there? Do you guys help them get there like the NCAA does on things? How does that work out, Mike?
Well, we are driven by sponsorship.
Okay.
Our sponsors provide us the opportunity to see to it that the teams are fed, that the teams have travel, they have a place to lodge, and all of that is taken care of before the first pitch.
Okay.
Our tournament consists of 8 teams, 4 from, and it's all in the bracket, the NAIA bracket and the NCAA Division II bracket. So there's two tournaments going on at the same time. And then we have the bracket winners, and then whoever wins those brackets will meet the championship game. But our sponsors make sure that we have the baseballs, we have the facility, we have the team, we have the team travel, and and we make sure that the meals are taken care of.
Okay, very good, very good. So and it's whatever. I mean, the other part of it is also it's another experience for these student athletes to have in their data bank when they become. I'll put myself out there. I won't put you out there, young man. When they come old and seasoned like myself, they can go back and reflect on such a time as that.
Well, you might as well include me in on that too. I played collegiate baseball at Edward Waters.
Right.
In the 80s. And Mr. Michael Prince, to this day, I think back of some of the things that I did. I mean, HBC baseball took me to places I would have never gone on my own. Number one. Number two, it took me to places I never even heard of.
Right.
And the thing is, I did it with guys that I met, on the field. I was not recruited to play baseball. I made my 3 years as a walk-on.
Okay.
I actually played 1 year of NCAA Division II tennis at Wilberforce.
Okay.
Before I transferred to Edward Waters.
Now, did you transfer to Edward Waters for the pursuit of baseball?
No, I transferred because it was a better school.
Okay.
And then they had a baseball program, and they asked me to try out, and I tried out and made the team, and the rest is history.
Okay.
But what I like about it is the fact that it gave me an opportunity, and it's giving kids an opportunity as to where you're not just a student athlete, but you're a student who's seeking a career, as to where it's molding you to be a better person in life. You're going to have a career. You're going to be gainfully employed. You're going to take on a wife. You're going to have kids, and you're going to live your life according to how you see fit. And collegiate sports offers that opportunity. And the thing that I like about it is that opportunity, you find a way to make it work. You're molded. You have a coach. The coach, he teaches you how to be a man. You become a man, and then you take that to the next level.
Yes, sir. It is definitely a life teacher, and it's something that you'll forever be learning until we leave here. And I can appreciate the camaraderie. As you mentioned, you have friendships that are 30 years since you last were on a diamond that you still have to the day, and it brings you together. Might not be as often as you used to when you were traveling together, but when you get together, the stories never get old. And the older we get, the slightly different the version of the story becomes, but it just brings back the fond memories and the camaraderie. And it's a pride thing, because you are representing your university, your college, when you go to these strange little towns that you never heard of and didn't even know where they were on the map. But as you develop and you grow, it becomes a part of your DNA to help you, as you mentioned earlier, go on down and be that husband, father, better son-in-law, and a better productive person in the community. And it all ties back together, because it's how you play is most of the time how you live.
That's right. And you have a chance to pass that down as a legacy to your kids.
Yes, sir. So look, Mike, we talk about this thing all the time, but sometimes from people looking on the outside in, they just see what they see, but they don't realize the grunt work behind the scene. They don't realize the personal sacrifices behind the scene. They don't realize the countless amount of money that was spent that they would never know about, and then be the first one to say, oh, this should have been that way and that should have been that way, without knowing that, man, I went through hell and high water just to get what you see. So if you see something that could be of an assistance and make it better, don't talk about it, be about it, and help with either your resources, whether it be finance or talent, to help us carry this thing further down the road. And I say all that to say, you sent a tweet out the other day, and I'll be quite honest with you, man, it floored me. It floored me because we all have our crosses to bear. We all have our journeys that we're on, and some people choose to let every fiber of their life be, shown through social media, and it has its intents and purposes. I think some people are overdoing it, but to everything is a purpose, and I'll let you pick up from there to tell of your tweet and tell what was the purpose of letting that be known.
Well, I had a scare right before the World Series. Now, I've had this, excuse me, I've had this before, but this one just really floored me. In 2013, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I had chemotherapy and it worked. Then the cancer returned in 2015. I actually had surgery when we thought we nipped it in the bud then it came back in 2021, and I went through 15 radiation treatments. I was clear then that the numbers were down, way down. Then in a routine checkup, just a regular doctor routine checkup, my PSA numbers were high, and it drew an alarm. So they immediately sent me in to have some more medical procedures done. And it was determined that I have stage 4 prostate cancer, where it has spread into my ribs and into my lymph nodes. When that was conveyed to me, I broke down. As a man, I broke down, and I really cried because I've had this struggle before that I've always nipped it in the bud. But when they said stage 4, because after stage 4, there is no 5th stage.
Right.
So you have to rely on God to get you through this. And it really floored me because it happened at a time when that day I was supposed to be flying out to Montgomery because they told me I needed to get to see my doctor. Whatever plans I had needed to be put on hold, so I went ahead and did it. And when they told me about my diagnosis, they said that I needed to go into chemotherapy the next day.
Wow.
So I did, and then the day after that, they gave me an injection. Then for 2 days, they wanted to see how my body was going to tolerate the chemo. And then they determined that I was able to travel. So I went to Montgomery under a lot of challenging things in my life, not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing if I was going to leave Montgomery or if I was going to be hospitalized there. But I was able to continue to drive by what I had founded. And under normal circumstances, I think that what I should have did was I should have attended to my needs, my health needs. But I was really driven by it. It might seem selfish, but I wanted to make sure that the World Series went on. And, at the same time, I did have treatment in Montgomery. I did go through chemo while I was there. My insurance set it up. But, this really floored me. And what I'm trying to do now is I'm taking this cancer on, and I'm doing it to make people aware. Because when you have prostate cancer, there is no pain. There are symptoms of things that you're going through that you just take for granted. And until you get tested for it, you'll never know that you have prostate issues.
Right.
So I want people to be aware of every time time you go to your doctors, tell them to do a PSA test. Make sure that it's done as a man every time, and start early, because early detection can be treatable.
Yes.
And that's why I'm becoming a spokesperson for prostate, because every man is going to experience this. There's just no way around it. And the best way to get this out there is information. Somebody has to talk about it. Somebody has to have some sort of cutting edge to see to it that people are aware, because it's a health issue. You don't want to leave this world. We're not going to leave this world on our own. We're going to leave when the good Lord tells us we're going to leave. But in the meantime, you do want to be able to have a life and be healthy, so that when the Lord does call you home, you're able to fulfill your dreams.
Absolutely. It floored me because I have family who gone through the same process, and fortunate they caught it at an early stage, and it's so prevalent amongst African American men. It hits all men, as you mentioned, but it's really prevalent against African American men because we do not go to the doctor as often as we should be going. We don't pay attention to the subtle things that our body is trying to tell us. We shake it off, and the testosterone that remains in us, we say, it ain't nothing, I'll be all right. And that's good, but it's not good, because you have to take care of yourself. You have to be able to be there for your family if you are a family-driven individual, and I know that you are. So with everything that you've experienced, and I know you're kind of torn between the two. I got my baby getting off the ground, and it seemed like now that all this is happening, now I'm getting hit by the back door with this. And you have to have, and I'm hearing it in your conversation, a solid relationship with your Savior. In your case, you profess on the name of Jesus. And that is important. That's just as important as going to your doctor, if you're asking me. But when you summarize this, and I know that every person goes through this. It might not be prostate cancer. It might be some other attack of your body or even of your mind. Things seem to compound when you're isolated at night, doesn't it?
It really does, because your thoughts, and then you're winding down. So these things they bear on you, especially when you're going to bed and you're sleeping. You're thinking, okay, I may not wake up in the morning. Good Lord willing, I will. You pray about it. You constantly keep our Lord in your life so you can continue your Christian walk. And so, because God knows our hearts, He knows us better than we know ourselves.
Absolutely.
That's just a fraction of it, because education is the other part. A lot of the problems that we have as black men is we really don't educate ourselves enough about our bodies. We depend on, I'm going to get better. No, you have to know about prostate. You have to know these things. You have to know the medical procedure. You have to know your body. You have to know everything about yourself, your health, and your history. If you know that salt's not good for you, then leave salt alone. If you know fried foods is not good for your system, leave it alone. We have to educate ourselves and stop thinking that, if I don't do this, then I'm not a man. You can be a man that eats vegetables. I do it every day.
Popeye did it too. Yeah, I thought you might appreciate that one, Mike. Now, when you go on that, now another good thing about your baby that we're calling the World Series, it does help keep your mind occupied on other things, which is part of a healthy recovery as well. Okay, and I'm a firm believer that all sickness is not unto death. You know, you say you might not wake up in the morning. None of us might not wake up in the morning. There are people who are healthy as oxes, not waking up the next morning. We all are in the grace and mercy of our Lord and Savior. When you have this balance, I'm going to call your project, and I heard you state earlier a 5-year extension for the World Series to continue, and this thing is growing, it's getting the attention necessary. And I want to let you know, my friend, my brother, my baseball compadre, that you have plenty of work to be done. You've only just begun, and I want to let you know that as one black man recognizing another black man, I am proud to say that I know you. I am proud of the work that you put in, have put in, and will continue to put in. I'm proud of the integrity that you walk in, because you and I have been in this business long enough to know that everything that look right ain't right, and folks that want to do right won't get right. And when you come across those rarities and the genuineness that you experience when you have the conversations and contacts, and where we could talk. I can remember a time you was on one of the Sunday night shows. Man, we talked almost 2 hours, and I had an hour show to get done because of the pure love of the game. You recall that? You remember that?
Yes, sir. I sure do.
You know, and so I just want to say thank you, Mike. I really do. I thank you so much for doing everything that you do, sir.
Well, and I really need to say this to you, and I really appreciate that, Mike. But throughout all of this, when I founded the World Series, when I was my vision, you know, I was doing things on my own. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, wasn't doing too good. Mm-hmm. We have a great team now. We have some really good guys that have stepped up, especially our planning. I'm still in charge of the helm because I'm the executive director. But we have a group of what I call boots to the ground guys in Montgomery who are just doing some absolutely wonderful job. Mm-hmm. Jarrell Calhoun, who's our vice president, he actually went out and got 10,000 students to attend the game. Wow. Because we hosted the Montgomery, Alabama school system. Okay. At the game, and we filled that stadium up. We had over 15,000 students alone.
That's awesome.
And that park was and it was sold out to capacity. And I'm saying that because we have eight members to our committee, and those 8 members have done absolutely a fantastic job in our planning, our organizing, our schematics, everything that we're doing. We have a great team. So, you know, I'm really proud of where we're headed, how we're headed, and then as we move forward, because this is a yearly event. And what really is driving me is people like yourself, who's able to talk about these things, host us on these programs so that we get the word out. And that's, you know, I never envisioned that. You know, when I founded it, I was like, okay, we're going to play the game. I never knew we was going to get a sponsor, $1 billion sponsor. I never knew Major League Baseball would get involved. I never saw these companies that are helping us grow the sport, and they're doing it with passion at the same time with their dollars. So with that being said, I am really appreciative of the community. I'm really appreciative of the HBCU baseball programs, the media, and shows like yours that gives this event a voice.
Well, sir, they say teamwork makes a dream work, right?
That's true.
And we all do our part. And look, this is my show anyway, and people know that I love the Lord. I love HBCU. I love sports. And I looked at it like this. Everybody talk about the man Paul, who wrote 14 books of the New Testament. But they forget about the young man by the name of Ananias. And Ananias was the one who had a relationship with the Lord that prepared him to go prepare Saul to be converted to Paul to go out and help the rest of us follow the path that Jesus laid. So if I can be an Ananias in the system, I say to God be the glory and thank you for it all.
And that is the Gospels.
And that ain't the gospel according to Mike. That's the gospel. Oh man, well, you touched on something. I said I wasn't going to try to wind it too long, but when you talk about this planning process, see, you got me started all over again, Mike. And that's why I say those little things that people, they just show up and they see it, but they don't understand that, we didn't just pull a rabbit out the hat and say, voila. This was strategic planning, strategic spending, strategic meetings on top of the meetings. And when you sit back and you see it all come together, as I mentioned earlier, I know it makes you feel good knowing you got a team that has been assembled to help carry this thing on. My question is this: is there a remote possibility that you could get your national D1 champion to get together with your D2 champion in maybe a fall classic?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I say that with respect to two different styles of baseball.
Okay.
And a fall classic is meaningless.
Okay.
During the season, as a tournament, sure. But the goal now is to, because we have the Black College World Series, the goal is to find a way to have a HBC World Series with the D1 programs. With that being said, we were on the verge of putting one together.
Okay.
And we had that window of an opportunity because when the MEAC does not have a baseball program anymore.
Right.
And when they did, their conference tournament and the SWAC conference tournament was always the first two conference tournaments that started. Mm-hmm. And that was that 10-day window. And now that the MEAC no longer does baseball, and then the SWAC has decided that they're going to start their conference tournament at the same time as everybody else, that knocked us out of the box.
Okay.
So now, if there is a possibility of doing an HBCU World Series with the D1 programs, you're going to have to find a way to make it work. Because there's regionals, and then, one of the big hurdles to overcome is a lot of these schools get out like the first week of May. Right. So by the time regionals come around towards the end of the month, you got students sitting around for 15, 20 days. Now, who's going to house them and who's going to feed them?
Well, look, I got the perfect scenario for you with this 21st century approach to life, right? Just make it a virtual series and do some simulation, put the teams in there with their stats, and just let the game simulate who the champion will be. How about that?
Well, you know something, Mike, it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember the last time we we talked about this was, right after COVID. A couple years ago, and you mentioned the same thing about a virtual game, and I thought it was really interesting.
Well, I actually came through with that game, Mike. It's not a virtual game. It could be a virtual game with an app, right? But I developed this, and I got to get you a copy of it, man. Remind me, I'll get a copy to you. I actually called it Black Diamonds, and it was based on 52-card structure, and it is a simulated baseball game, and it does have the play and feel of a baseball game. Now, it's kind of nerdy and geeky. I'm an old, nerdy, geeky guy now. Yes, sir. But I got an app that I actually use, and I've done a few simulated games during the course of the season, and it's actually pretty fun, man. Maybe I need to push that thing a little harder, huh?
I thought you would have, because I remember right after COVID, you and I had that conversation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I came through with it, and I'm glad you reminded me. And I'll make sure to get you a copy in the mail, man. I really will do that. You got my word on that, my friend. You got my word on that. Well, look, Mike, I want to give you an opportunity right now to have some closing thoughts and comments. We're going to do this again. We had some plans to get together with this series coming up, but of course with the challenges that came upon you, we were able to see it through. But we're gonna earmark it and continue and say until the next time. But I want to give you some closing thoughts and comments right now, sir.
I want to thank you for always being that rock of always reporting everything HBCU. I think a lot of times, we don't always give credit where credit is due, especially when it comes to members of the media that do shows like yours, that do podcasts to report these things, and ever-growing, ever-expanding HBCU landscape. So I really, owe it all to you. And all I have to say to you is keep God in your life, keep God in your heart, and keep God where He needs to belong. And that is so that you can continue your Christian walk.
Well, I thank you very much, my friend. Do know you got a brother over here. Friend is so loose, I'm going to say brother. You got a brother over here, and when I say it, I mean it. Anytime, any day, any hour, I'm a phone call away. And I want to let you know that God is with you every step of the way, and we'll continue to lift up one another. He is Michael Coker, and I always say I never met a Mike that I didn't like. Black College Nines. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. I want to thank you guys for joining in with us on this exclusive session with Mr. Coker. You can follow me on Twitter at The Mike Prince Show. The YouTube channel is the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Don't forget you can visit the website at obnradio.com, our 24-hour stream where you can catch interviews like this, rebroadcast games, and a whole lot of other valuable information. Don't forget, you can always ask your smart device to play the latest episode of The Mike Prince Show, and you'll have everything that you need. My time has come where I must exit stage left. And so until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.